Good morning. Welcome to Mindful Mondays for July 20th. So, we talk about mindfulness as a way to provide um, techniques to help you cope and deal with stressful and uncertain situations that you experience in your daily life. And right now is a very tumultuous time in the world. So, mindfulness is a way to help us really focus on the things that we have control over and live in the present moment and enjoy that moment and reduce our stress and how we feel and respond. So this week I want to talk a little bit about neuroplasticity. Um, our brains have the ability to change and grow throughout our whole life. It's really a superpower, and if you think about what we'll talk about today, that in itself is really amazing. But it has been successful in helping people who have had a stroke, who've had damage to certain parts of their brain where they've lost the ability to do things that they learned a long time ago. Maybe it's certain skills or activities that they had, learned how to do as a young child and have done their whole life and now have to learn how to do it again. And it actually is when they're relearning that they can't reuse the part of the brain that was damaged, but they're actually creating new pathways in their brain using a new part of their brain to relearn those activities and skills. Um, and each time you do something new and you try thinking about something new, you try an activity that's new, your brain is actually creating new neural pathways and connections. Um, that the more you practice that, the stronger they will get. So it's really amazing what our brains can do over time. The more we focus and practice and um, expend energy on thoughts, behaviors, and feelings and attitudes, the more that those are repeated, the stronger those neural pathways become. And they're almost like tracks. If you think about, if you're going through um, a path in the woods and you take that same path each time over and over as you're walking, over time you're going to see tracks and that pathway will become more distinct and stronger over time. That same thing happens the more that we engage in specific behaviors um, over and over, and habits and attitudes and thoughts, the stronger they become. But the good side of that is that we're able to change that. So if our minds are stuck in a cycle of negative self talk or a cycle of stress responses in specific situations, we actually have the ability to make a positive change to those over time by practicing new habits and new activities and new behaviors. Um, Changing those neural pathways is a way of practicing almost a muscle memory. So just like you would have to learn to ride a bike or learn to play an instrument or learn a new skill like painting or drawing, each time you learn something new, it gets easier the more you practice it. You get better at it the more you practice. That skill improves over time. And you can do the same thing to practice positive things that are going to help with your mental well-being. Um, Athletes often use visualization and practice to gain muscle memory. So not only do they practice and practice and practice and practice a skill that they want to improve and strengthen to get that muscle memory, but they also will practice when they're not in the actual situation where they visualize themselves going through that same motion again and again and successfully completing it. So maybe it's successfully hitting the ball and getting a home run. Maybe it's successfully throwing a bowling ball and getting a strike um, really walking themselves slowly mentally through that activity, start to finish, and visualizing it being successful each time. The more you do that, the stronger it gets, the more successful you actually will be in person when you try and do that activity. Um, so, mindfulness is a way for us to change where we place our energy and our focus. Um, when we're stressed. And the more we practice good habits that help provide healthier ways to cope, the better chance we have of that being the go to behavior that comes up in a stressful situation. Mindfulness, meditation, affirmations, all of those help to build new, healthier neural pathways and better ways of dealing with stress. Any habit that you want to master, any skill that you want to master, takes 21 days of practice for a habit to form. So if it's something that you want to take on doing, maybe it's something where you want to get in the habit of exercising every day, or maybe it's something where you want to practice yoga or meditation every day. If you make it a practice that you do it for 21 consecutive days, it will become a habit. And the more that habit is reinforced, the stronger that neural pathway will become. And that will provide you with better coping skills in situations of high stress. So, for practice this week, I'd like you to think about how you respond in scary, stressful, painful situations. What does your body feel like? What is the self-talk that you go through in that situation? How do you respond to other people in that situation? And think of a specific instance that you would like to change. And then identify how that is reflected in your thoughts, feelings, and actions, specifically in that situation. And then I would encourage you to choose an opposite thought or response that you can use to replace how you're currently interacting when that situation occurs. So if you are in a situation where your negative self-talk is telling you you're stupid, you don't know what you're doing, you want to come up with positive self-talk that is in opposition to that, that you have this, you know how to do this. This is an area that you are an expert in, or that you're strong in, that you've practiced, that you can use to replace that negative self-talk and that negative action. If you feel like you're in a situation where you react physically and act out, what are some positive coping mechanisms that you could replace that behavior with? So is it something where you need to say before you get into a screaming match or a fighting match with a sibling or a friend, that you need a break and you need to step away and calm down and come back and talk about it? Maybe it's something where you have a phrase that you use to help redirect your energy, and you move to a different situation so that you're not engaging in that negative response that you have before. So each time you catch yourself engaging in that negative thought, feeling, practice, um, I would encourage you to try and recall your positive response that you decided you wanted to replace it with, and try and use that in the situation and practice that instead as soon as you catch yourself reacting negatively. And here are some kind of just general helpful techniques for helping you to feel better in a situation where you're maybe not feeling so great. Um, Smile, even if you're not feeling it. When you smile, your body releases hormones that make you feel happier just because you're smiling. You can almost like um, convince your body that you're happier than you are just by doing that, and that will help improve your mood. Um, you can hug yourself, and surprisingly, by doing that, it not only lowers your stress hormone, but it also um, confuses your body into thinking that someone else who you care about, cares about you, is hugging you, and you get that same positive response from doing that. Your brain can't tell the difference if it's you or someone else that's hugging you. Practice your deep breathing that we've talked about in previous Mindful Mondays, where you're taking in slow, deep breaths through your nose. You're holding those breaths for a count of 4, and then you slowly exhale through your mouth. Breathing is something that you can practice that is less obvious that you're doing that in a situation. When you start to regulate and pay attention to your breathing, that's something that you can do with other people around, and they aren't always going to be aware that you're doing that. You can do that very subtly to help relax your body and calm yourself down, calm your nervous system down in that situation. Um, and even just bringing your attention to your breath so that you're changing your pattern of breathing from that or that fast, shallow breath to the slower, deeper breathing will help, because when we're anxious or stressed, we tend to take very quick, shallow breaths. So just making that change can help improve the situation. Engaging your senses. So, practice being mindful using each of your senses to help ground yourself in this present moment. So, what are the things that you hear around you? What are the things that, what are the smells that you can smell around you? If there's something that you fidget with that is reassuring, because of the sense of touch that it engages, that's something to think about. um, Engaging in those moments that helps to bring you back to that present moment and relax your body. And then I believe it was last week we talked about the stop method, where you're questioning your thoughts. Question the thoughts that are going through your mind in that situation. Are those really the facts? Is that actually what is happening? Or is that the story you're telling yourself about what's happening? So are you getting yourself worried about something that might happen rather than responding to what's actually happening in the moment? So pushing back on those thoughts that are worrisome and making sure that that's really the fact of the situation and not something that we've kind of what ifed into existence through the story we're telling ourselves. So that's today's Mindful Monday. Thanks for joining us. I hope to see you next week.